Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where I was just looking at this front here and I was noticing there's nobody here. Is this an intel issue or is there actually no one there? I don't know, but if there is actually no one there, we should be executing this plan and just take over all of this territory because it's apparently free. Maybe it's not free. We'll find out here in a moment. But first, we have some research slots that we should probably fill up. So let's go ahead and grab, sure, the improved light tank. Why not? That'll be fine. Literally anything is fine at this point. We're just trying to get this all cleaned up. So that looks good for now. We can grab rocket-assisted projectiles. Are we not already doing this? Can we research this with multiple things? Apparently, we're not already researching this. I thought that we were. Okay, I remember doing that previously. It got 74.6% done. Maybe I accidentally reassigned that at some point. Maybe. Well, for now, let's just get all of that going. And we're about to find out if this is actually a completely open front. Yeah. There's nobody here. Okay, were they here last episode? Hang on, I want to check. I'll be right back. Okay, I went back and looked at the previous episode, and I don't see anyone up on this front in the last episode either. I just did not notice them. I didn't notice that this was wide open. Okay, well, we are definitely going to be taking some stuff up here. We're going to get access to this steel here, which is great. We may be able to get this steel, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Soviet Union ends up taking that. We'll see what this ends up looking like, but we're going to take as much as we absolutely can here, for sure. So let's just push right on in. And yeah, we can see the Soviet Union is doing the same thing. They're actually fighting here, so there is someone here. That's intriguing. Well, let's just see how much of this we get and how much of it the Soviets get. Remember, we can just buy things from the Soviets, so that's absolutely fine. And the Soviets lost territory over here. So they're just not frontlining us. They're frontlining the Soviets. Okay? That's a choice, to be sure. Of all of the choices they could make, that's definitely one of them. No doubt about that. Well, I would like to get another core going here, so let's go ahead and do that. We're 9 days away from finishing this one. We can go ahead and get this started. So at this point, we've got 2 modern tank brigades. Where do we want to put these? That's an interesting question. We could set up a new army out over here. This would need to go into, like, the northern theater, right? So this would go out over here. We'd put a new army up. And then that would come out over this direction somewhere. I'll just do that for now. That'll do. We'll come back to that later, I'm sure. We're not very focused on that side. So they do have some forces coming in over here now. We do see some forces up over here. But even so, we managed to get a lot taken over, and there's going to be a lot more. This against the Soviet Union over here does not need to exist. So we should go ahead and delete these orders over here. And this would then need to be reassigned up over here. So any of these that are not assigned correctly would need to get reassigned, or... yeah, this is going to be a bit obnoxious. Okay, I'm going to select all 16 of these, and we're going to assign this to, let's see, this is Army Group 1, like that. Okay, and then these would get assigned here, like that, and then these would get assigned up here. This is going to be mildly obnoxious. Okay, all of these are infantry and would get assigned here. Tanks would get assigned here. And then these are infantry and would get assigned like that. These guys don't have orders yet. There we go. Now, this is still a little bit broken here. So I'm going to grab this, and we're going to delete this front line here. There we go. And it's mostly only broken in the infantry. The armor doesn't actually look that broken necessarily, although this will need to get reassigned. So let's go ahead and delete this with 12 divisions. And then if we come down over here... Okay, a lot of these are going to need to be reassigned again. Okay, this is really obnoxious. Well, we know that the infantry are going to need to just have a front line placed here, right? So that's fine. They can get assigned like so. And then all of this armor out over here, specifically these lads, would need to get assigned to... This is Army Group 1. Like that. Okay, I think that's everything assigned to orders. So that'll be good, and then we can think about logistics out over this way. I'm thinking a hub here, a connection here, then down to like here, and that'll be fine. I was going to run it like this, but it did not want to do that. So that's okay for the moment. And we saw some upgrade issues out over here, but we're not getting that anymore. That's interesting. So this is a rail line that runs up over here, and I just want to take a quick peek at what the logistics might look like up here. There's nothing. Okay, they have nothing built up over here. And that's not terribly shocking, given the area that we're in here. So we'll build up here, and that's kind of all we need to do, I feel like, as far as upgrades go. Although this could get upgraded to level 5, as could this. There are some upgrades down over here in Korea that we could certainly work on. So a connection like that would be okay, and then 5, 5, 5, and 5. Something like this. Then we can go through and motorize all of these hubs, just to make sure we have some amount of supplies going through, even though we are not seeing much resistance up in the north here. We definitely do want to make sure that our logistics are still acceptable-ish. At least vaguely acceptable. So we're going to have to continue to push through, and that's absolutely fine. So if we check up over here, it looks like the Soviet Union is being attacked more than the Soviet Union is attacking, I think. So that's good to know. My next question is, what does this fill-in look like? Okay, so it's basically just take everything. That's fine. I was thinking about reissuing this order. But yeah, that's just take everything. So that looks absolutely okay. No issue there. So we'll just continue to push through here, and of course, we're going to need another Coast Guard unit to control this territory up over here. My question now is, what is the status on this Coast Guard unit? So if we look at what it actually needs, it needs 78. Okay, so that's going to require backing off right here, and then there will be a new Coast Guard unit that needs to be raised that would Coast Guard here, here, unless there is a connection here. Okay, so yeah, it would have to go here, here, all along this front like that. Okay. So that's absolutely noted. They are trying to get forces to this front line. What was that? What was that stall about? That was interesting. That usually means there's like a big capitulation going on, but... or a peace deal. Let's look at Yugoslavia here. Hang on, not the Soviet Union. Yugoslavia. Well, they're still fighting their war. Okay. Interesting. Well, for now, we'll continue to push. The resistance here is more extensive, for sure. We managed to get a good chunk of territory, though. And they're starting to organize some amount of resistance here. That's definitely the case. Now, I'm watching this here, and I'm thinking we might have to extend these lines back a little bit, because we're just kind of ignoring the Soviet Union right now, right? And this front line just broke. It should be extended down to here. That's interesting. We can just modify these front lines. It's not a big deal, so that's absolutely fine. We can then grab this front line and modify that like so. Okay, so that's fine, but I don't know why it didn't automatically move. It feels like it should have. But let's just continue pushing through here, and there's not much that they can do about this. This is a railway gun that is apparently lacking in order. Well, this is part of Army Group 1, so let's just put it up on here. And actually, it shouldn't be able to get to the front, should it? Because it's tied to the railway. It could make its way up over here, I suppose. That's a thing it could do. It doesn't seem very interested. Maybe we need to have a higher level railway for it to travel up there. That's a potential possibility. Let's move these guys right on up for now, and that's still a lot of rail lines that we need to build. It's not that many, actually. Okay, let's check infrastructure up here. Okay. That's a lot of infrastructure that needs to get built. I think we'll hold off on that for now. This offensive is going to be done fairly soon, I think. But this is a lot of territory to move through. No doubt about that. This is some very, very large provinces out over here. That's definitely the case. So we're keeping an eye on this situation out over here. If the Japanese manage to push down this direction and open a corridor in here, they could potentially cut us off, and that could be bad. But I don't think they have the troops up here to actually do anything useful. I'm moving us up to aggressively attacking at this time. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I absolutely don't think that they have the resources to do anything about it. So down here, all of these guys need to be moved over now. So let's select all of the units assigned to that order, and that's for Army Group 2. They should be assigned here. And then we'll grab all of these. They should be assigned here, and then we'll delete these two. We don't actually want those there. Cool. So Japan is absolutely on the retreat here. There's no doubt about that. My question is anything interesting happening over this way? And the answer is not really at this time. I'm wondering about resources that exist out over here. I want that steel. That's an interesting shape for that state. Okay. So that's noted. No doubt about that. How do we want to go about this? Well, we do have these two tanks out over here. We could have them forget about their front line up here. And instead, they can come down over here and front line. And then they would have their offensive line be basically just pushing up over here, right? We could also just do this with our infantry. Because at this point, we can just kind of take over everything that's over here without any major repercussions. So here's what I'm thinking. We have our tanks set to offensive line, like up over this direction. There's not very many of them, but they can be set to that. And do they have any way to get supplies here? I don't think they do. I think they're completely cut off. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have these guys be told to offensive line basically right up over here like this. And we're just going to start pushing over on this side. And then these guys, they're going to offensive line basically right up like that. We'll see how much we get out of that. It should be pretty extensive, though. Because I don't believe that they have any way to get any supplies whatsoever, except they've got this quote-unquote capital here. The Chinese Constitutional Republic doesn't really exist anymore, right? But they've got that there, and then that's the only victory point. So they have a very, very small amount of supplies there. And at this point, if we look at the factions map mode, we can see they're surrounded by the Allies to the north and the Czech Entente over here, and then us to the south and the east. So that's absolutely wonderful. I think that's fine. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that I set this up last episode, but we don't seem to actually be doing this. This is owned by the British Empire, and I don't know why we're not actually attacking here. I ordered them to attack, but we don't appear to actually be doing it. Why don't we come on in here? Okay, there we go. So that seems absolutely fine for now. We're going to take this victory point. We're tying these lads down. And now, this is absolutely perfect, actually. These three assisting this attack, I want this unit to come out to Najaf, like this. And we're just going to continue to push in out over this direction, like so. Okay, so that looks good. Now, as far as this attack out over here goes, I expect this attack to eventually succeed. But we don't have many troops out over here, and that seems fine for the time being. So this out over here is absolutely going to be finished up. We've got our Soviet Union border going on over here. That looks good. This is the exact issue that I outlined as being a potential problem previously. So let's just come in with these tanks here. And we'll need to make sure that this doesn't become a major corridor. Question is, how do we want to do that? We could divert a few infantry to just hold this position. That is definitely an option. But for now, that looks absolutely fine. Out over this direction, we are expecting these guys to start to fall very soon. I'd like to attack here. Yeah, it's going to be a little tough for our troops here. But I definitely want to start whittling down their amount of supplies over here. So we can see that organization is a problem out over this way, and actually this supply hub needs to be motorized up. We'll do that. And what's the situation on rail out over here? Under construction. Okay, that explains it. Yeah, that's fine for now then. So we're going to continue to push out over this direction. Of course, we're going to need more supply hubs up over this direction. And I want these guys, this is infantry. I want these guys to be moved then over to Army Group 2 here, which is this one. There we go. And then these lads would be moved to Army Group 1. Perfect. We'll delete these fronts. They are unnecessary at this time. Okay, where's this naval invasion? Over here. It's actually being handled. Although I'm a little surprised they're naval invading here. I guess they're probably coming from Japan. I would have expected them to try to naval invade here, though. We're actually much weaker up in Korea, so I don't know why they're doing this. But sure. Seems fine. So we don't really need this unit up here. I'm going to assign it up over this direction. We don't need to frontline against the Soviets there. As of right now, anyway. And we're just going to continue to slowly chip through the amount of supplies that exist in this region. So that'll be absolutely wonderful, and organization is absolutely a problem out here. I do think that we should probably queue up a hub here. But otherwise, that looks good for now. And of course, we're going to need more hubs up over this direction. So this one apparently has no supply connection. And we're going to want a hub about here, and then I'm going to do one about here. And then probably here is good. About here. Maybe one up here. One here, and then I'm thinking one here for right now. Then, of course, we're going to need to link those up by rail. And that would be something about like this. That's quite a lot of rail lines, no doubt about that. But it's okay. So we'll do something akin to that. That'll be fine. We'll move up all of these supply hubs, of course. That was a rail line. And that was another rail line. Let's just get this one moved down. There we go. So that seems fine. How many civilian factories can we get in up over here? None. But we could do one here. And I'm going to do that. Perfect. I also want to check in on our fiscal year. Okay. We've got 6 months. So that is absolutely fine. So we'll continue to press out on this front and work on taking some of this over. We don't have all that much force arrayed out over here, but we know that their supply flow is extraordinarily minimal. So once we get their supplies to a critical threshold, we'll start pushing over here fairly quickly. And to be honest, we may even want to set our guys to aggressively attack. And that's what I'm going to do. We're going to tell them to aggressively attack there. As far as this down here goes, do we want to aggressively attack this? I don't really like this push that we've got going on here, to be honest. I'm going to select these guys. I'm going to delete this push, and I'm going to instead have them offensive line to here. They've got a victory point here. And then they've got this victory point. They do have a victory point up here as well. And then I saw one out over here, I think. Yeah, right there. And there's one here too as well. They do have a number of victory points out here, but their supply flow is still going to be extraordinarily limited. So I want these guys to, for now, just go ahead and start pushing. And they're not actually attacking at this moment, and I'm actually wondering why. That's interesting. I want to check in on this situation down over here. Okay, so we haven't managed to get Basra yet. Let's just get in there. So that'll be fine. They are now retreating down this way. Ah, that's Republic of Turkey. I didn't realize that. But we can take that very quickly. So all of these guys would then be heading over to Kuwait City, except like this one, which would just do that. Perfect. So they're going to get kicked out of here with no real problem. That looks great. But they're definitely in pretty full collapse at this point. So here's 24 units. I'm going to put them into this Coast Guard unit here. So that looks fine. We've got forces up over here. We're continuing to push. And I'd like to have these guys actually frontline here. I'm just assigning them there. And we're going to have them, I think, just try to offensive line out to, like, here for now. And we'll see what they want to do beyond that. Okay. That looks absolutely fine for the moment. And we are definitely making significant gains out over here. Out this direction, we're going to be a little bit slower. This guy is quite overextended, to be honest. Let's see about taking like this. That would help matters significantly. We don't have that many troops out here. Neither do they, and their supply levels are extraordinarily limited down this direction. So that's absolutely understood, and we should be doing absolutely fine up here. We can just push up to here and start sweeping around this way, and hopefully lessen their supplies a little bit. That's the idea, anyway. Okay, from here, I'd like to attack here. And I'd like these units, I'd like one of them to attack here. And I'd like the other one to attack here. But this isn't going to go all that well here. So that's understood. Let's bring in an additional infantry unit over this way. I just want to clean this little bulge up over here. I think that's not ideal to be that overextended. That was a very significant overextension. So our tank is pushing in here. That looks great. But it is about time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue kicking them off of the mainland. I think that's what's happening here. We're just in full cleanup mode at this point. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Aurelio, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.